Hey guys, so people who don't know, I love science. I really do. It was always my favorite subject in school, and whenever I see stuff like this, I'm so amazed by stuff that people find. So here we have scientists uncovered a mysterious pre-Inca mummy buried around 1,000 years ago, tied in fetal position with hands over its face. So this is the mummy in question. Um, there are better pictures. This is just the you know a close one. But so a group of archaeologists uncovered a unique pre-Incan mummy in Peru. The man was found bound in a fetal position, clasping his hands to his face. Clues around him suggest he was a high-status person. An expert told Insider, the mummified remains of a man bound in the fetal position were recently uncovered in Peru, and a find remarkable because of the good condition of the body. The remains of the man were found in a pose of clasping the hands to the face, a gesture likely of religious significance. His burial site makes it clear that this was someone of high status. The man would have been younger than 35 and is estimated to have been buried 800 to 1,200 years ago, per a statement released by the team from the National University of San Marcos, Lima, who made the discovery. So, pretty old. That's before Westerners reached Peru and even before Inca civilization. This is an exciting discovery because the body is in such great preservation. Dagmara Socha, a bioarchaeologist from the Center of Andean Studies at the University of Warsaw, told Insider. So here is the whole mummy itself, in the fetal position there, bound. You see they got rope all over. So the problem in many sites in South America is that they're extensively robbed by grave robbers. Yeah, I mean, and that's unfortunately that's just the way it is anywhere that is old civilizations. Look at the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. That's there's like hardly anything left there. So when they found King Tut there, they were amazed because they figured he would have been whisked away in the middle of the night, like all the other bodies and all the gold that they were buried with. But no, they found Tut's tomb, and they were just amazed that it was still there because Valley of the Kings is so well known, and there's so much. I mean, if you were to put a price on everything that was there, it's more than a pretty penny, I'll tell you that much. So anywhere that has mummies and tombs and any kind of temples, you're always going to get grave robbers. I mean, hell, even cemeteries still have grave robbers. But yeah, Valley of the Kings, definitely one of the highest rated places of tombs. Every time a pharaoh died, that's where they went. So they got all these little tombs all over the place. But obviously it is not Egypt. This is Peru, beautiful country. The remains uncovered in an October excavation. Okay, so it was October. Were found in Cajamarquilla, near Lima, Peru, one of the biggest archaeological sites in South America. Although in ruins now, around the time the mummy was buried, the place would have looked very different, I would imagine. So, it would have been covered by the ceremonial plaza, where there were sacrifices and where they were celebrating some rituals. Adobe brick pyramid would have towered over the local landscape. Okay, so I'm guessing this is the excavation site. You can see like there's like buried, like almost like rooms, so like underground tombs and stuff like that, or maybe it was buried, but the area would have been sacred, dedicated to rites, and people wouldn't have lived there most of the year. Yeah, these places, most of the time, you know, they had these sacred places, but they wouldn't go there all the time. They were just very specific times, you know, sacrificing would be a perfect time to visit these. Any religious ceremonies throughout the year, holidays. I think the only ones who were there, if it was had a priest or whatever, shaman or whatever it was that they called it, who watched over the temple. Because if I remember, there was always someone at the temple, to keep praying to the gods and to look after it. But people, the common folk, wouldn't go there regularly. Only just certain events. In the case of this particular mummy, the remains were found in an oval funeral chamber in a coveted spot just below the town square. So it sounds like it's a very, this was like the pristine creme de la creme of spots that everyone wanted. But this guy, he got it. He got it. My man. The chamber was large, about 10 feet long. Wow. The center of Cajamarquia was devoted for the person that were the most important. Okay, so not only did they have a chamber that was the most sought after for people, but it was also, the most important. This is also showing that this person wasn't a high social status, like an important warrior or priest. As I said, I would think that the priest who basically would devote their lives to taking care would be buried in the most important spot, as to kind of continue to watch over it. In the afterlife and all that, like they believe that you die, and then afterlife, rebirth, and stuff like that. These people would have typically been buried with others who were sacrificed to their companion in the afterlife. The man was buried with the remains of at least 2 infants. Well, infants, were they sacrificed, or were they just, born and not too long after they died? Because yes, they did sacrifice children. So the position the mummy was found in has some religious significance to it, and is not uncommon among Peruvian mummies. Mythology for people from the mountainous regions of Peru dictated that if you put someone in the same way that he is in the womb, that it makes it more possible for him to rebirth in the afterlife. Like I said, rebirth. Most religions around the world have some kind of concept of rebirth. Going back to ancient Egypt, when the pharaohs died, they were buried pretty much with anything they would possibly need for the rebirth, and they would go to the afterlife and make this long journey, and if they were able to, they would make it to the end and be reborn. So they were buried with valuables, any possessions they had that could help them make this ethereal this journey, this astral, the land in between. But yeah, most places have some kind of concept of rebirth and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. While the scientists continue to study the mummy to uncover more of its secrets, the man's body and other items found within were moved to San Marcos University in Lima in December. Okay. So which why is they're pretty much reporting now. That's really cool. Like every time I see them discover like a mummy, or like they just found like a pretty intact fossilized egg, a fossilized dinosaur egg, I'm like, oh my god, that is so fucking cool. Then there's one actually below this I want to look at. Treasure trove of 2,000 fossils reveals life in Australia's prehistoric rainforest before it turned into a desert. That's fucking crazy. Paleontologists unearthed roughly 2,000 fossils of insects, fish, spiders, and plants in Australia. Seems like much hasn't changed in Australia. Everything still wants to kill you. The fossil paint a picture of life in Australia's prehistoric rainforest 15 million years ago. Wow. They also reveal major climate changes as Australia's rainforest turned into desert. Like the Sahara, same thing. They said that wasn't always a desert. It used to be, it had life. It was lush. And then just over time, just things changed. Paleontologists have covered a treasure trove of roughly 2,000 remarkably well-preserved fossils from an ancient Australian rainforest, revealing an ecosystem in the thick of a changing climate. Gotta remember back in the day, back in prehistoric, you had centipedes that would grow to the size of humans because of the air. They had access to so much more oxygen than things do now. So you had dragonflies the size of dogs flying around, and centipedes the size of humans, and scorpions the size of fucking cats. And it was crazy how large these animals could grow because the atmosphere and the temperatures and this and that was just so different. Now we've got like little tiny scorpions and little tiny bugs. I mean, we still have pretty big bugs, but guess where they are? In the rainforest. Places where they can flourish. Same thing with fish. When you live in the bottom, you're living in the ocean, you have all that space. Yeah, you're going to grow big. The researchers were excavating Jurassic fossils in the hills and flats of southeastern Australia in 2017 when they got an important tip. A local farmer told them he discovered fossils on his own land nearby. The farmer had cleared and stacked a huge pile of heavy rocks from his field. While it's common in Australia for Australians to find fossilized leaves, and there were plenty of those in the farmer's rocks, as the researchers turned over the stones, they also found an array of rare insects. Wow. In the 3 years since, the farmer's field, now known as McGrath's Flats, or McGrath's Flat, yielded detailed fossils of ancient spiders, cicadas, wasps, flies, fish, flowers, and even bird feather. Hundreds of prehistoric species were previously unknown to science, and together they paint the first clear picture of life in the rainforest that once blanketed Australia. Today there are only vestiges of these lush forests along the continent's eastern coast. Oh wow. The new fossils include fish with their last meals still in their stomachs. Jesus. Insects dusted with grains of pollen from the last plant they visited, and bugs' eyes and muscles preserved in exquisite detail. Previously, only 4 spider fossils have been found across Australia. At McGrath's Flat, paleontologists have already unearthed 13. Wow. That is fucking crazy. That is indeed a spider. That is a very fine looking arachnid. And we got a wasp right there. Well, the head of a sawfly carries pollen. Yeah, so that, wow. We never imagined that fossil would be so well preserved and there'd be such a diversity of life. Matthew McCurry, a paleontologist in the Australian Museum and the University of New South Wales, told Insider. McCurry is one of the leaders of the McGrath Flat excavation. His team's findings were published Friday in the journal Science Advances. As a paleontologist, it's quite common to go on field work and not find anything, he added. But at this site, we're going with a small team and we're bringing back hundreds of fossils back every time. Jesus. The fossils formed between 11 and 16 million years ago. During the Miocene era, as Australia's rainforests were drying up and turning into the desert that dominates its landscape today. The McGrath Flats, flat fossils could reveal how different groups of plants, bugs, fish, and other creatures responded to their changing environment. Historical context for modern-day climate change. Then we have here A lush forest with iron-rich waters made perfect conditions for pristine fossils. We have all forms of life, from cicadas to the dragonflies. We got a bird right there in the back. We got spiders. We got ants. Got like a little worm down there in the corner. When iron-rich waters flowed into the Oxbow Lake about 15 million years ago, thousands of creatures now buried in McGrath Flats were trapped. As the water stagnated and the iron materials fell to the lake's bottom, they encased the dead bugs, leaves, and fish that sunk there. Almost everything that fell into the water was indeed preserved, so you really have a good view of the spectrum of things that lived in McGrath Flats. McGrath's Flat. Michael Fries, microbiologist at the University of Canberra, who worked with McCurry to analyze the fossils. We got a fish fossil with phantom midge insects in its stomach. Oh, wow. The details preserved in the rock hint at the creature's lives. For example, one fish fin was fossilized with a parasitic larva of a freshwater mussel attached to it. The lake wasn't hospitable to mussels, so the fish must have been picked up the parasite upstream, then swam into the lake. It likely died soon afterward because the mussel larvae only stayed attached to their host for a few weeks. The level of preservation in fossils allows us to say things about ecosystems that are otherwise really, really difficult to figure out, Curry said, adding, those interactions between species in particular is something you wouldn't normally have preserved at all. Fossils reveal a rainforest drying up. Okay, we're almost done. Fossilized flower. Okay, so that's what that is. That's really pretty though. I mean, I understand it's just a fossil, but if you can imagine what it looked like when it was, you know, not dead and fossilized. Though the creatures in McGrath Flat rocks clearly lived in a rainforest, much of the fossilized pollen comes from the desert plants. That suggests that the site was surrounded by arid regions. Wind carried dry climate plants pollen to the lake. The rainforest was beginning to dry out. We sit at the brink of a pretty dramatic climate change right now, and to understand and predict what's happening, it's probably good to understand some of the most recent past climate changes. The Miocene climate change and the Miocene extinction event is a good one to study, I think, because the flora and the fauna in the Miocene is quite similar to what we have now. To better understand the Miocene climate change, researchers will need to find other fossil sites just like this one. As they continue excavating McGrath's Flat, McCurry and Fries's team is analyzing rocks at the site to determine how the Oxbow Lake formed and how it ended up with the perfect conditions for pristine fossils. I mean, there are plenty of places, I'm sure, on Earth that have, you know, the perfect mixture of, you know, minerals and stuff like that to keep it. So the fact that they're so baffled and amazed at this one, I mean, it shows you this is what these guys do for a living, and these guys are like, yeah, this is amazing. We've never seen so many, you know, pristine fossils in one place before. If they crack the code, they may be able to identify similar sites across Australia. With a bounty of fossils from multiple sites like this, paleontologists could learn which species adapted to the Miocene climate changes, which ones migrated to survive it, and which ones went extinct. Already, McCurry and Fries's team has discovered discovered species at McGrath's Flat that didn't survive the rainforest drying up. Cataloging the migrations and extinctions of the Miocene could hint at the future of species facing climate change today. That's really cool. I mean, it's just stuff like this. I mean, I always loved learning about this. I mean, these are things, you know, some of them, like spiders, I mean, they really haven't changed in millions of years. You know, you have animals, you know, certain fish crocodiles, alligators that really haven't changed in millions of years, so they essentially are living fossils. You had bugs that got up to enormous sizes because the oxygen was different. They had all this room to grow. It's crazy. I mean, the spiders, it's like eight-legged freaks, probably like fucking giant spiders crawling around. And like I said, that's why sea animals get so large. You know, they have all this room. They have, you know, bountiful supply of oxygen that they can, you know, they just grow and grow and grow. Depending on species, not all of them obviously grow that big, but some of them have just evolved to just stay short and small because there's no need for them to get that large. But I always love learning about this stuff. Anything else? Death throes of Fred's supergiant star caught on film for the first time. Researchers find 200 million year old dinosaur footprints on beach in Wales. Don't drink the water. Watch a jerk coyote pull rude stunt in Arizona watering hole. I'm guessing either the coyote threw up, took a piss, or took a shit. It's like, oh. But anyways, yeah. I mean, if you guys aren't into science, sorry for wasting 21 minutes of your time. But then again, if you're not interested, you would have turned this off anyway. So congratulations if you're still here. You're a nerd just like me. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you like science? What was your favorite subject in school? What was your favorite subject in school? And tell me why it was science. But yeah, anyways, you guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.